Alright, and getting into the first thing that I think can really help people that are stuck in low elo and starting off the checklist is to mute everyone. You want to mute everyone in all chat, and you want to mute all allied chat. When you're in low elo, there is nothing that is said that is going to impact the game at a very high level. I would say 99.5% of what is said is only going to serve to tilt you, or is going to serve to distract you and make you type back at them. So I heavily recommend, if you're prone to tilt, or if you're a little bit of an emotional player, to just mute everyone. I can't tell you how much this has improved my games. I've started enjoying the game a little bit more, to not just have this constant, constant peanut gallery going on when I'm playing my games. It helps me focus a lot more on the game and what I'm doing. It helps me focus more on my game, what I'm struggling with. Hey, maybe I need to be CSing better. Hey, I need to be warding better. Hey, I need to be looking at my mini-map more, because I found that sometimes when I was typing, that was usually my downtime that I was using, that I should have been looking at the mini-map and helping my team. Everything can be communicated through pings, and just trust me on this. If you're anywhere from iron to mid-diamond, I would say to just mute everyone, and it will serve wonders for your mental game, and it will help you out with climbing. And that will wrap up tip number 1. Alright, and getting into the second thing that I think really can help you guys climb is to do a little bit of self-analysis on your champion pool. And what I mean by that is really look and review what your most commonly played champions are and where you're seeing success. As you can see right here, I have a very strong win rate of 63%, 61%, and 64% on these 3 champions of Nocturne, Mordekaiser, and Cassiopeia. So I should really be focusing on those 3. I should be staying away from Urgot and Gnar. I think I've fallen into a common trap of thinking that they have a very strong matchup into a particular setups, but I don't really play them enough that I can carry late game team fights, or I just kind of have this overall idea that, hey, they used to be strong in a different meta, but now they're not too strong, and I really need to stray away from them. So this is a perfect example of, hey, maybe probably should stay away from Akali a little bit. I'm not really the best at Akali. Stay away from Urgot and Gnar, and really double down on my strengths and focusing on them. What this is going to allow you to do when you have a very condensed champion pool is you're going to learn the matchups extremely well. You're going to be able to just really excel and beat people over the head with your experience in the matchups. If you've just played them 40 or 50 times, counter matchups don't really matter too much in low elo. Obviously, you might struggle a little bit if you're something like Darius into Poppy, where the Poppy is just going to get absolutely destroyed by the Darius because it's kind of hard-coded to win. But what I really want you guys to do is do a little bit of self-analysis. Check out your page. Be like, hey, maybe too many wins, too many games played in D3. I'm a little bit hard stuck right now. And what am I doing? What am I wasting games on and just kind of floating and being hard stuck on? This is about 60 games where I'm just really struggling to climb. So I need to double down on my strengths of Mordekaiser, Nocturne, and Cassiopeia. So I heavily encourage you to take a look at yourself. And if you guys, if this helps you out at all, if any of these tips help you out at all, I'd love to hear your comments down below, and that will wrap up tip number 2. Alright, and getting into tip number 3 on the checklist, this is going to be talking about ward control. If you're anything like me, you struggle a little bit with placing wards, but this is really going to just impact the game extremely heavily because playing around Fog of War and having the Fog of War advantage is just going to be absolutely insane. I want to go over a couple really key points that you can look to do when you are playing the game. You want to look to get lane priority, get a lane pushed in, and then look to ward out the enemy jungler. What this is going to do is first it's going to make your lane safer, and then it's also going to enable your allied lanes of being in the top lane, in the bot lane, of being able to know that they can all in. Maybe they can know that they're playing aggressive. There's nothing more that I like than maybe having an ally that warded there. This is a great spot for a ward or control ward because it's very rarely checked. I see the enemy jungler. I'm in the bot lane. I'm like, oh my god, thank god. This is not going to be a 2v3 with the jungler coming right when I all in. So always look to get as much vision control as possible when you are playing, because this is just going to be an insane factor in the game. Also, when you are playing something, say you play something like Kha'Zix, say you play something like Zed, LeBlanc, you get the idea. An assassin that it can really thrive just with just zeroing out people if they get in the right situation. You really want to buy control wards, and you want to have sweepers. You want to take advantage of the fog of war and having vision control and feign roams. How you do that is you push the lane into the tower and then sit in a bush that you think they're gonna take in the route that they do when they look to match or roam, because people don't want to get yelled at by their teammates, and just wait for an extremely easy kill of people just basically walking into you. Particularly in low elo, you're gonna see this all the time. So this kind of feigned roam is going to really help you out and just really look to take advantage of the vision control you can get in the game. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, this next tip, I really want to talk about this because it's actually very personal to me, because I run an educational channel and I have a lot of people that come to me and say, hey, I cannot climb out of these games. I have just feeding teammates all the time. The numbers are just not adding up. I always have feeding teammates. What you want to look to do, if you're one of those people that say, I always win lane, but I always lose a game, you want to look to spread your lead as much as possible. How we do this is, of course, getting lane priority, pushing the lane into tower or freezing it depending on your champion, and looking for a couple of things. If you're able to tower dive, if you're a strong tower diving champion, something like a Kled or maybe like a Malphite that has a lot of early bursts with his ultimate and can tank the tower a little bit with his base tankiness, you want to look to tower dive as much as possible. But if you're unable to tower dive and really push them out, you need to look for objective control. You need to ping your ally jungler, be like, hey, let's take this Rift Herald, I'm really strong, I have lane priority. Or ping your ally jungler. There's nothing more than a jungler loves than an interactive solo laner that is going to look to help them out. You should be securing every single scuttle, or no matter what. If you're crushing lane, you need to be securing every scuttle on your side for your jungler. Next up, you want to be looking for really easy ganks on the enemy jungler when they are coming to buffs. This is going to be an extremely strong thing that you're going to do, because it's going to put your ally jungler ahead and it's going to put your enemy jungler behind, which is just going to have a ripple effect throughout the entire game. So always look for spreading your lead in this situation and just really controlling the top part of their jungler. And then also this is going to cause the enemy jungler to flame the enemy top laner quite a bit in my experience. So you always want to look to spread lead. If you're a bot laner, you want to look to control the jungler, and you want to look to have vision control in the enemy jungler and securing the buffs on this side. After you've taken the tower, ask the other laner on the opposite side to do a tower or a lane swap with you and start getting out those plates and spreading the lead by taking tower gold and by getting the allied jungler ahead and the enemy jungler behind, which again is going to have a ripple effect throughout the game. So this is just the number one way that I think you can really spread your lead. If you're one of those people that always say, my teammates, they're always feeding and I can never win games, which is just one of the hardest comments for me to answer, because I've just had to answer it like hundreds and hundreds of times. It's just not a good thing. All right, now I'll wrap up this tip. Alright, and for this next tip on the checklist is, you do not want to be one of those players that sees, say a pro player, say they watch Bjergsen a lot, and they always build the same build over and over again because they saw Bjergsen build it once. Doing cookie cutter builds is really going to hurt your flexibility, and it's going to hurt your ability to have critical thinking in the game and to further your just overall game knowledge. What you want to look to do, Teemo is a perfect example because he's a very flexible champion. He can go tank, he can go AP, he can go AD, you can go attack speed on hit. So there's a lot of different things you can do. You want to be looking at the enemy team comp. You want to be like kind of holistically, do they have a lot of AD? Do they have a lot of AP? What can I build to counter that? Maybe I need to get ninja tabbies because there's a Zed and then Kha'Zix and a Draven or a Jhin bot lane and a Pyke at a support. You really want to look to adapt a build to it. The only caveat to this would be something like a Jax with just an extremely core item build with the Spear of Sojin, Triforce, and Sterix gauge. But when you are playing pretty much any other champion, you really want to look to adapt your build. You want to look to adapt your rune set depending on what your enemy team is, and not only your enemy team but your allied team. Say your allied team doesn't really have that much peel and you're playing mage, you might want to look for something like Rylai's that can really help with the team. If maybe you're playing something like that's a support and your team is very heavily pick or like a heavy engaged team, you want to look at something like Shurelya's or Twin Shadows that will really amplify the strengths of your team. So always look to adapt your builds to the current game state. Do not be that noob that just looked at pro builds once and be like, hey, a Faker or a Khan or one of the big names built this once and you just kept building it over and over and over again. It's just really just an insane thing to do. So just make sure you're not doing that, and that will wrap up this tip. All right, and for this next tip, I want to talk a little bit about something that you probably haven't heard too many times. I don't think I've really seen any videos, and I watch a lot of educational videos that talk about this. What you want to look for when you are playing games, even have a little notepad on the side, is you want to write down common mistakes that are made in your elo. For example, if you're anywhere from iron to gold, people really do not respect the level 2 all-in. And the difference of power between a level 1 champion and a level 2 champion is absolutely astronomical. So this is going to be a big window of power where you want to look to just really trade and get very positive things happening in your lane. Another thing that is very common in low elo that a lot of people make mistakes is they do not respect fog of war. So setting up vision traps is going to be absolutely huge. If you see common mistakes of people just really not rotating for the ally jungler and they just are obsessed with getting really strong CS, you want to take advantage of that. If you see something very common in your elo, another thing with low elo would be something like people really don't respect stealth. Playing things like Teemo, playing things like Twitch, playing things like Evelyn, that can really take advantage of that is going to be strong. Another thing you're going to see commonly in low elo is people really don't respect roams. They don't respect roam pings. They still don't do that even in the elo that I'm playing in. Playing things like Talon, playing things that are really roam heavy, maybe something like a Shen, or just people that do not really play around globals like Nocturne and Karthus. You just want to take this all in. You want to kind of build an amalgamation of the common player in your elo and devise a game plan on how to beat that particular player. I think this is really going to help out any person that is looking to climb and is looking to be serious about League during the end of the season. If you have any questions about this, I'd love to help you out in the comments down below, and that will wrap up this tip. All right, and for the next tip, I want to talk about what is the best type of vision item that you should be getting when you are playing particular champions, because there are going to be better warding options for different champions, and I want you to look to abuse those different things. Obviously, if you're playing things with a ward hop like Jax or like Lee Sin, you want to probably be sticking with the yellow. If you are an assassin that loves to get those early kills and to deny vision, I think pretty much any assassin really wants to go Oracle Lens. Maybe something like Fiddlesticks that's a really good ambush champion. You want to be going Oracle Lens. If you have a very strong long range pick champion, something like Jhin, maybe something like a Kai, you get the idea. You want to be doing something like Farsight Alteration that can really enable you to get those long range distance picks. So critically evaluate what you are doing currently with your vision score, and are you optimizing your vision with the particular champion you're playing. Maybe you're a top laner and you are playing a very bruiser, maybe you're playing a lot of lane boys. You might want to have as many wards as possible, and the warding totem is good because whenever you play a lane boy like Darius and Alawi, sometimes it draws jungle attention because you are pushing in the lane and you're just winning the lane really hard, and the enemy laner is just begging for gank. So again, if you have any questions about what the best warding item is for you, I can help you in the comments down below. But you can be like, hey, I play a lot of Gangplank. I want to know what the best warding is for that. And I'd probably say something like, hey, if you're doing a lot of split pushing, you probably want to buy a lot of control wards and yellow wards. If you're not really too much of a split pusher, but you want to look for a lot of long distance picks with your barrels and your ultimate, maybe a Farsight Alteration would be good for you. If you're one of those really talented Gangplank players that look to burst out people and do feign roams, you might want to look for an Oracle Lens. So you really want to adopt the vision item to your particular playstyle and champion. I know it can get a little bit confusing, but if you just critically evaluate, I think it will help you out a lot. And that will wrap up this tip. Alright, and for this next tip, I want to talk a little bit about something that I know some people might not agree with. I know that some streamers and some people, like I think LS has said, it's really hard for people to evaluate themselves, particularly like watching your own VODs over again. Like low elo players probably shouldn't do this, but I think it might be a good idea to take a look at what you're doing when you are playing games, and you want to look for your weaknesses and maybe look for things that can help cover it up. So if I'm looking at myself, I am just absolutely garbage with remembering to get controllers. I know I preach bitch a lot with control words, but I can be a little bit empty-headed when I'm playing games and I autopilot a bit. So this is a really big thing that I need to start working on more if I'm looking to climb, is getting more control words. I have 1 control word in 4 games. Absolutely atrocious. It should not be happening with the Diamond 3 player. Next up, something you should look at is, are your CS numbers good on particular champions? I have a 3.0 on Veigar just because I play a lot of support on it. But what are the champions that I'm doing well with CS? What are the ones I'm doing kind of poorly with? And maybe I need to do something to bridge that gap. Maybe if you're an ADC player and you really struggle with CS, getting something like Sivir, it can be really effective because it has great lane control, and then like things like Karthus, and you get the idea. You want to kind of fill in the gaps. Maybe you're someone that is very prone to tilt. Maybe you want to play a safer champion, so you kind of minimize the risks of pushing out a lane. Kind of like how I went on tilt on this Kayle support. I don't even know why I was playing Kayle support, to be honest. I thought it could work with the Yi jungle and just kind of get a hyper carry and just kind of run at them with the ultimate. So take a look at your OPGG or U.GG or whatever you use and evaluate what is going right and what is going wrong with your champions, and be like, hey, I was doing extremely well with, hey, I have an 86% win rate when I play Taric. Maybe we should look to play that a little bit more. If my team needs more of a team fight centric support, if we have a very heavy team fight comp with like a front to back, like a Vayne, Sejuani, Malphite top, like you get the idea, front to back team fight comp, and really look to be like, hey, maybe I'm not utilizing something that is really obvious and I already have in my toolkit. So try to write down, just write down a couple notes. Be like, hey, I struggle in this area, this area, this area. These are my strengths that I need to double down on. And that will wrap up this tip. All right, and for the final tip on my checklist, I want to talk a little bit about metas. There are 2 completely different metas, one that you really need to pay attention to and one that you should completely disregard when you are looking to play. First of all is the low elo or average elo solo queue meta. This is the one you really need to focus on. You should completely ignore pro play meta because that is completely different. Those are in a kind of game state where people are extremely coordinated. They can play things like Tahm Kench. They can play things like Taliyah at a really high level where the team knows, hey, we should go in now. We should do this. I really need to get devoured now. You have to pay attention to how different it is. It's completely exemplified extremely well in the different win rates right here that I want to do. Dr. Mundo is an amazing jungler in the current meta. Lee Sin is not. You should really be focusing on champions that are strong in low elo. These are usually easy to execute champions with relatively easy kits that are going to perform at a very high level, and you're just going to be able to beat them over the head with just an extremely easy game set. So I do have a couple videos where I go over the top 5 champions by role, where I go over, hey, like Annie's really good. You get the idea. If you can check those, you can check those out in the library if you want, or you can just ask me a question. Hey, what are 5 top champions right now in the jungle in gold elo? I'd love to help you out with those kind of things, and I'm sure a lot of other people will help you out in the comments down below because people really love talking about champion picks. But I want you guys to check out the different win rates in different elos on different roles, and I think this is going to help you out quite a bit. And then obviously checking out the different tiers in this. I love how Jinx is doing really well. I love playing with Jinxes currently. And then be like, okay, maybe I see a lot of Ezreal in pro play, but those Ezreals are extremely strong and very good players, and they're going to have a lot of coordination and peel, and they're going to provide a lot of utility. But hey, this is not going to be a great pick for me in solo queue to pick up when I'm a silver player. Do not put your supports through having to support a shitty Ezreal, NA Ezreal. It is one of the most frustrating things as a big support player is playing with Ezreal and Caitlyn's. They just really, it's really hard for low elo players to pull off. So completely disregard the pro meta. That is going to wrap up my checklist. Tell me if you enjoyed this kind of format. I really enjoyed doing something different than just the 5 tips of a very selected kind of just a particular champion. If you liked the video, please remember to like, subscribe, and guys, take it easy.